they will resort to drastic measures if salaries are affected by this decision to, as it were, approve these taxes. Let's hear from NAGRAT on this issue, as they put up earlier today, and the concerns that they have raised about how this would impact on them. But first, let's take a listen to the Trade Union Congress, TUC.
It's easy for anybody in this country to pay tax, because people have the impression that when even they pay the taxes, it is not used for the purposes for which the tax was introduced. It is not a noble fact too that government needs taxes to also develop the country. But the only problem is that we don't even know what they use the taxes money for. Increase in taxes has its own positive and negatives. So this one is going to affect employment. Management are going to lay off workers if they are unable to pay their taxes, or they are not to meet their income as against their expenditure. Government should have stayed a little to have a conversation with all of us to come at an agreement or compromise. And this time around, we are not going to sit down and fold our arms. I think we need to monitor the usage of our taxes so that we can hold them accountable for whatever monies that they have taken from us as taxes. They should expand the tax net to cover all those who don't pay taxes, both formal and informal. Before this government came into power, most of the Ghanaians voted for this government because of the promises that he made, that he is not going to increase taxes. He's not going to go to IMF. He's not going to impose. I mean, Ghana has a lot of money to deal with our issues. I mean, we are very much disappointed. We are worried, and we don't know whether this time around the expected income from this taxes that they have increased is going to be used for what it meant for. Because all the time they increase taxes, they come with reasons why they are increasing taxes. They are going to do ABC, but at the end of the day, nothing is done. That is why we know that taxes are for development, but when we pay, we don't see the development that we envisage.
That's a specific concern that not just the TUC shares about the evidence of what our taxes are used for. That's Joshua Ansan, his Deputy Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress. A number of you indeed sharing that same concern, and how this latest approval of the taxes is going to impact not only on businesses but on incomes as well. And the increasing cost of living has been an issue that workers and indeed the labor unions have been talking about over the period. Let's go on to the telephone now, and the president of the National Association of Graduate Students, as NAGRAT, Enjo Kabono, is joining us on the telephone. Mr. Kabono, thank you so much for joining us on Hot Edition on 3FM this evening. So your outfit is threatening an industrial action over the new revenue taxes. Correct?
The position of my union is that if come April or any month, we go to the bank and we realize that as a result of the new taxes introduced, there is a dip in our salary, we don't have a choice than to advise ourselves.
And in advising, what are the options that you're going to be looking at?
Well, the exact decision will be taken by the National Council of the Union, but it is even offensive to labor practice that you make anybody worse off. People should read the labor law, read labor convention and practices, that you don't make a worker worse off. So if at any time we realize that there is a dip in our salaries, we will have to advise ourselves, because the government has not had any roundtable discussion with us. There's not been any stakeholder consultation as far as workers are concerned. So we don't see why there should be a fall or a dip in our salaries as a result of any tax measure introduced by government.
Now, there definitely would be an impact, is it not? I mean, if you look at the income tax amendment bill that has been approved, if it is accented to by the president in the coming days, all things being equal, that would have an impact on income. So that's a giving.
Well, then we will be having a very unfortunate and unpleasant situation on our hands.
And what will be the result of that if this happens?
See, a fortnight ago, workers negotiated a 30% salary increase. Just 2 weeks after Labour negotiated 30% salary increase on the base pay. Government increased electricity bill to 29.9% and also increased water bills all out across the country. So in that light alone, the monies that were added to our salaries was quickly dissipated or absorbed into the payment of utility bills. Now, government wants to increase the income tax. I mean, over already impoverished workers. I don't know how government expects its citizens to survive in this country anymore.
Now, so if you listen to the finance minister, in fact, I monitored what happened in Parliament. He stayed throughout the night into the early hours of Saturday when this was eventually approved. His argument is that we needed this to get the IMF board's attention for this $3 billion deal that we're getting from them. Was that the only way?
Mr. Ocansey, is it not the collection and taking of loans that brought this country to its knees?
Indeed.
And this whole IMF fetish that the government is just rediscovered, is it not to go and take loan from IMF?
True.
So you think that if loan taking brought the country to its knees, it is IMF loan that is going to uplift this country from where it finds itself? I doubt that very much.
You didn't agree with the finance minister on that particular position?
No, I think as a nation we've missed the path, we've missed the approach. We went and were taking loans and we're happy taking loans. It brought the country to its knees. We've become international beggars. Then we are going to we are suffocating our own people so as to create a space for us to be able to take more loans. I don't know where that leads this nation.
So in the coming days, if it becomes law and by the end of the month you see any impact, you are going to advise yourselves, and that includes a possible...
Yes. I mean, already workers were shocked to hear at the last minute this announcement. Then before we could say that it has been passed. But again, as we indicated, we are already suffering. We are already reeling under the yoke of the economic situation we find ourselves. And it will be very unpleasant if government further burdens us already struggling people.
And you're not alone in these reactions we are getting to what happened on the dawn of Saturday. So will the other options you're looking at be a possible industrial action as that's from NAGRAT or other labor unions?
Well, like I said, these things are taken by the various general councils. And the various general councils will meet and mandate its national officers and executives as to the way to go.
I do appreciate your time, Mr. Kabono. Thank you. Thank you so much. Angel Kabono is president of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, on this. They have indicated they're going to advise themselves if eventually these revenue bills are approved, in fact, accented to by President Akufo-Addo to become law. What that means is that all things being equal, incomes beyond a certain bracket are going to be affected. And that's what the National Association of Graduate Teachers plus other labor unions are raising concerns about. Already we are hit with the increasing cost of living and what their businesses that are going to be affected by the latest amendments to the excise duty and excise stamp amendment bill, plus the growth and sustainability levy bill. All these bills, if accented to by the president, are going to be affected by some of these issues, and the implementation of it, according to the businesses, is going to increase the cost of doing business in this country. And they have indicated that if the cost of doing business goes up, the likes of GUTA, AGI, say they're going to pass on the cost to you and I. The Association of Beverage Producers, Ghana, have also indicated that these three new taxes will possibly collapse their businesses, and that's what other labor unions are raising concerns about, that this could also lead to layoffs and thereby increasing the plight of the Ghanaian worker in this country. When you go on our Facebook page right now, we're showing you some of the projected revenues that government expects from these three revenue bills that have been approved by Parliament, awaiting accenting by President Akufo-Addo. According to the Finance Minister, that's what you see there. The Excise Duty Amendment Bill is expected to rake in some 400 million Ghana cedis annually. The Growth and Sustainability Bill is expected to rake in some 2.2 billion cedis annually. The Income Tax Amendment Bill, the Finance Ministry has projected 1.2 billion cedis annually from that. Now, if you go on to the next one, a number of the businesses are raising concerns about the already increasing costs of doing business because of the tariffs that have been increased, the tariffs. Now, from January this year, we saw water going up about 80%. Industry saw an 80% increase in the water tariffs, and the commercial bottled water and drinks also saw a 172% increase in the tariffs. Electricity tariffs have also gone up by 65% as well. So prior to these taxes being that's approved by Parliament on Friday, this is what the businesses have been dealing with. Now, when you go on to the various taxes that, for instance, the local manufacturers have been paying prior to this being approved by Parliament, they pay import duty, they pay import VAT, processing fee, ECOWAS levy. In fact, when you go on our Facebook page right now, as 3FM 927, you're going to see the list of these taxes and tariffs that the local manufacturers have been paying. That's what you see there. There is a processing fee, ECOWAS levy, network charge, VAT, network charge, COVID-19 health, Ghana Shippers Authority fee. There's also the import VAT, there's import NHIL, there's network charge NHIL, there is a tax deposit, there's Minister of Trade and Industry EIDF fee, special import levy, Ghana Exim levy, Get Fund levy, network charge, Get Fund levy, inspection fee, AU import levy, COVID-19 health recovery levy. All of those, quite a lot of them, in fact. Now, Dr. Alex Mpabeng is a tax expert. Is joining us on the telephone for a bit more on this. I mean, Dr. Mpabeng, you know all of these taxes, a lot of them that the importers and exporters, the local manufacturers, and all the other businesses have to pay. Concern is, these new taxes that have been approved clearly is going to increase the cost of doing business, is it not, if eventually implemented?
Yes, Alfred, there's no doubt about it. And whereas I do not have much of even a concern immediately with the Income Tax Amendment Act, it has its own issues, but I'm more than happy as to speak about the ones relating to business. Currently, aside all the other costs and the taxes that you mentioned, we are in a position of now increasing excise on minerals water, and also on true juice, for which Tampico and all those juices, which I would say predominantly consumed by the very poor in society. And also, we know that the sector gradually is employing few people. Now, in traffic, you see most of our youth who probably will have been unemployed in the street selling some of those free juice in a way that there's a ripple effect if the sector is doing well. We don't know the impact it is going to have, but from listening to the chairman for Ghana Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Boaji, over the weekend, his statement is that there are about, I think, 4 or 5 companies who have already spoken to him, and I think they are relocating to Togo. If that is the case, then even the taxes the government intends to raise, they are not going to get. But with a huge cost of creating a further layer of unemployment in the system. That is just by the way. But when you look at the Growth and the Sustainability Levy, which is the rebrand of the National Fiscal Stabilization Levy, we currently have the banks in the A category. They categorize it in A, B, C, with A being the bank, other financial institutions, the telecom companies, the breweries, and what have you, the oil marketing companies. Now, if I want to single the banks out, The banks are the ones who are very much hit by the government-owned domestic deficit program because of their excessive exposure to government security. They have already are the sector that the government owns 33%. So 33% of government debt domestically belongs to the banks. Already the banks are paying 5% gross profit tax on what you call the financial sector cleanup levy. In addition, they are not going to pay this 5% growth and sustainability levy at the time when their money is already locked with the government. So we need to ask ourselves that if the economy is to do well, we will expect the banks to be in a position where they are very functional, highly operating and successful and profitable to be able to give loans to local businesses to grow. The bank's capitals are locked up somewhere. Already they are paying the financial sector cleanup levy, and now they haven't to pay it. The question is, how do we revive the economy with the financial sector so much depleted? How would the banks be able to loan? And then take the banks out. Already, our policy rate is around 30%. This is the rate that the banks are borrowing to each other. So it should tell you if the banks are to borrow to businesses, how much is going to be. Probably looking for about 40% or more. Electricity, as you said, has gone up to more than 34 or so percent in the last 7 months. Water has gone up, gas, everything that businesses need as part of their input has also gone up. So now with these new taxes, how do we expect the businesses to be able to operate? How do you expect the banks to be able to support the sector to ensure that in this difficult time with the IMF asking us not to employ? How are you going to sort out those graduates in the system? And crucially, you know, the extractive sector, most of which have signed up to stability clauses. After the agreement with the government, majority of those operating the oil and gas sector, the mining sector, do have stability clauses, which we have promised them as a country that because of the high cost of operating in the sector, any new fiscal regime will not affect them. They have signed, we have signed. Now, this new bill, when I read it, it says it does not consider any existing stability clause. They have been explicit on this. So now, what we expect those multinationals to do, the oil companies, the mining companies, probably they'll be heading to court. And what that is going to send as a signal to the rest of the world is that Ghana do not have a stable fiscal regime. And that could be very crucial to most businesses, especially multinationals. When they want a place to invest, one important thing to them is the stability of the fiscal regime. The last thing they want is a government that will sign an agreement with you and will not respect it. The businessman wants to know and plan in advance the liabilities ahead of them. But where in the middle of nowhere we start introducing new taxes, it's regarding the very fiscal stability agreement we have signed with them. We are not sending a good signal. And I think I really don't know how you want to turn the economy with these new taxes. And crucially, e-levy has told all of us that it's not the type of tax that you introduce, but it's about efficiency. So they can introduce the taxes, but where is the guarantee that you're going to get the money? Efficiency, to me, is our biggest challenge. A study by DII, Ghana Integrity Initiative, and Track shows that Ghana is losing $3 billion annually through corruption. Corruption, $3 billion. You're going to IMF for the same money that is going to pay us over 10 years, for which you're going to get released quarterly, or $1 million a year. So ASAP reports again showing that you're losing $2 billion through smuggling and illicit financial flows in the mining sector. And IMF's own report on the last Article 4 consultation is saying that we are losing $3 billion annually through tax exemption. They filed exemptions there, but as I'm talking to you, it has not been assented to by the president. and you're losing 3 billion, and you're going to IMF for 3 billion. So I think as a country, we need to get the priorities right. We need to know that the private sector, who we are overburdening with the taxes, are the ones we need to turn the fortunes of the country. I would rather advise government to look at blocking all the leakage, closing all the loopholes, tackling corruption, and dealing strictly with exemption sale to make sure that our exemptions are streamlined. We can save decent money from this angle than the new taxes that we are introducing at the point when the country, I would say, is going through recession.
Dr. Babing, was the introduction of these taxes the only way, out for government to, as to show up its internal revenue, as the IMF required of us to do?
Definitely not, Alfred. You see, the IMF, when they came in, one of their concerns was the high or the larger fiscal gap we have. And therefore, they made it a condition for us to bridge the fiscal gap or to introduce measures that will bridge the gap over time in the shortest possible time. That document did not at anywhere say we should go and increase taxes. And to bridge the fiscal gap, government has two options. Option number one is expenditure rationalization. It's about cutting expenditure. And option number two is about raising revenue. Your expenditure gap becomes wider when your fiscal gap becomes wider when your expenditure is far bigger than your revenue. You can close the gap by cutting expenditure, for which you're not doing much there. As a country going through very difficult time, I think you should shift away from the business as usual. What people are saying, or what we Ghanaians are saying, is that certain government flagship programs, certain expenditure, which are not so much, we are not so much in diving, for which we believe can wait. Government should take the deliberate effort to make those expenditures wait, at least for now, until things are better. So taxes to me is not, and this is the wrong time. The economy going through recession. I don't think what we need is taxes. What we need are policies to stimulate growth and create more jobs for the people. Once we stimulate growth, the taxes themselves will come through corporation taxes, PAYE, VAT, and the rest. But if you are taxing these companies, and mind you, these taxes are all paid in advance. You have to do the assessment, and then you pay each quarter. So it's not something that the businesses will pay based on profit, which clearly shows that it's going to have a direct impact on their cash flow. So I kind of pity businesses, and I'm very concerned about the impact this is going to have on Ghana.
Dr. Mpabing, I thank you so much for your thoughts on this. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Dr. Alex Mpabing is a tax expert. Joining us and thoughts on this. A senior lecturer at the Economics Department, University of Ghana Business School, Professor Lord Mensah, is also asking Ghanaians to brace up for more hardship as the additional taxes will directly hit our pockets, which will reduce our purchasing power, which is already low. That's what to expect in the coming days. That's the reality of the situation.
If you look at the handles, clearly it is right at the doorstep of the consumer. We're talking about income tax, we're talking about excise duty, we're talking about growth and sustainability, which is more generic, So obviously, it's right at the doorstep of the consumer. It won't go through much channels to get to the consumer, as other taxes have been doing, like import duties, levies, and other things that government has been placing all these years. But let me tell you that these taxes are going to wipe further, the disposable income of Ghanaians. Already a typical Ghanaian home, looking at income and inflation, has lost more than 50% of the purchasing power because inflation is about 50%. So when I receive my salary, and salary has not been increased to that quantum of 50%, clearly tells you that I can only purchase half of the goods and services that I was receiving. So if these taxes come to, top it up, now Ghanaians are going to be squeezed further. Now, if you look at the happenings in the economy as we speak now, you could see clearly that government is using both the fiscal policy and the monetary policy to squeeze money from Ghanaians. Some of them induced by, our engagement with IMF, others as a result of how we want to reform the economy. If you look at the monetary policy side, recently the policy rate was increased. And, the Bank of Ghana also requires that the cash reserves that the banks are supposed to keep have also been increased. In a way, telling us that government intention is to squeeze, money out of the system. When it comes to the fiscal side, we have these taxes that are also being introduced. Then you ask yourself, at what point in the economic dynamics did money get to the people that now we're trying to squeeze this money from them? That is the question we must ask ourselves. So for me, this is going to squeeze Ghanaians further, and we should brace ourselves, for that.
Well, that's the sad reality. I mean, it's what to expect in the coming days. Professor Lord Mensah is a professor of associate professor of economics at the University of Ghana Business School there. That's how the coming days will look like, and that's the reality of the situation. All things being equal, if these three revenue bills that have been approved by Parliament is accented to by the President, expected to be done in the coming days, according to the Finance Minister, this was a major development to get the IMF board's approval for a $3 billion support and the deal that we are at the IMF for. So very interesting days ahead. We'll see how especially the businesses react to this, and also the various unions and groups that have raised opposition to this. We understand that there's going to be a petition to the President not to assent to these bills to become law to take effect. We'll see if they would get the listening ear of the President or otherwise. And so stay with us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, some 28 minutes at the top of the hour. Thoughts are welcome. We're live on Facebook at 3FM 927. That's at 3FM 927. We're getting to the details of it and more. But let's go into this. There's another potential impact of what's happening on the global front, especially with respect to crude oil. Saudi Arabia and other OPEC Plus oil producers on Sunday announced further oil output cuts of around 1.16 million barrels per day in a surprise move that analysts say would cause an immediate rise, all things being equal, in the price of crude oil on the world market. The pledges bring the total volumes of cuts by OPEC Plus, which groups the organization of the petroleum exporting countries with Russia and other allies, to 3.66 million barrels per day, according to Reuters calculations, equals to about 3.7% of global demand. Now, Sunday's development comes a day before a virtual meeting of an OPEC Plus ministerial panel, which includes Saudi Arabia and Russia, which had been expected to take and stick to about 2 million barrels per day of cuts already in place until the end of 2023. United States has also called the move inadvisable, but oil prices last month fell towards $70 a barrel, the lowest in 15 months, on concern that a global banking crisis would hit demand. Still, further action, OPEC Plus, we understand, to support the market was not expected after sources downplayed this prospect and crude recovered to about $80 per barrel. We are checking Bloomberg right now, and Bloomberg is putting a barrel of crude oil to about $82 thereabout per barrel. Let's go on to the telephone now, and Benjamin Boache, Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ASEP. So, Boache, thank you so much for joining us on Hot Edition. So we've seen this marginal drop in the prices locally, but just when we're about jubilating, how impactful will this development on the global front have on us in the coming days?
Thanks, Alfred, for having me. I think it's obvious that once prices go up on the international market, we will have similar effects at the pump. It won't be immediate because we already have products that are being traded on the market, and that's why you could still see some minor decline on the market. But if the rise is sustained, then there will be a pass-through effect which would affect price at the pump. And you would find today, at some point it was trading around 85 for Brent, even today. We don't know where, those cuts will lead us. If it is really sustained, that could have implications for the oil price and subsequently on price at the pump as well. But I don't know how government will respond to this time around. But our caution has always been that we have to respect the market and those who have control over the market. Remember the last time the prices were dropping and we saw the pass-through effect, the communication was that it was rather gold for oil that was saving us from high prices. If that argument can be sustained, then we should not see a rise in price of the local market. So we hope to see whether the gold for oil will be able to keep the prices going downward because of the barter arrangement that government is pursuing.
But can the gold for oil indeed shield us of the impact of this situation on the global front?
We don't see that unless there's some subsidy on the product. As we kept indicating, that the price of oil can be, at all times converted in cedi, regardless of what, in dollars, regardless of what currency, whether gold or euro or pounds. And therefore, I do not see how the gold for oil will be able to sustain the price. But again, we just have to give them the benefit of the doubt and see how they do it. Because they have communicated that gold for oil is able to sustain the price and reduce it. So let's see how that plays out in the coming weeks if price is sustained at $80 per barrel.
I see, but by your own analysis, I mean, prior to this moment, we've seen crude oil price in the world market going down. I mean, to about $70. I think it's about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
How far-reaching has this gold for oil program contributed to the consistent reduction in the price of petroleum products we've seen at the pumps over the last 3 pricing windows or so?
Well, I think apart from government, every analyst that look at these things in Ghana have said that the gold for oil has not had any effect. In fact, the gold for oil products are sold at a higher rate today than those who are not participating in the gold for oil program. So we attributed the decline to international oil price that came down. And we expect by all fair movement that once the prices go up, it will be translated to the pump prices, unless there's some subsidy somewhere that government will want to offer to keep the prices the way they are. And that will also mean taking a hit in this current economic circumstances that we find ourselves. So I don't know what government has up its sleeve. It has been touted as a game changer. It is time perhaps for them to prove us wrong and say that we were only doubting and that the prices cannot go up again.
Mr. Bachi, we'll see how the coming days will look like, but I appreciate your time as always.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Membache is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, on this here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also live as well on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. Also on TV3 and then the 3news.com. We're also live on at 3FM 927. If you go on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 3FM 927, we're streaming live right now. And scores of caterers on the school feeding program in the Ashanti region were left in a shock when the Ashanti Regional Minister, Simon Osemensa, snubbed them earlier today. Now, if you're going to put that video on Facebook in a few minutes, but the aggrieved traders had gone to the Regional Coordinating Council to present a petition. For weeks, the caterers have been protesting for the release of payments, which is almost a year in arrears, and an upward adjustment of the allocation fee from 97 pesos per child to 3 cedis. Now, you might be wondering what 97 pesos can be used to cook, especially at a time when price of food items have skyrocketed over the period. Now, the caterers have attributed the demand for adjustment to these hikes in prices of foodstuff. On March 20, they besieged the Regional School Feeding Program Secretariat, hoping to get reimbursed, but that did not happen. On March 27, they again reported to the Secretariat, and for the second time, they were disappointed. A petition was to be presented to the regional minister, Simon Osemensa, after weeks of no response from the central government. However, they were left more disappointed again when the minister snubbed them. Take a listen to the excerpts of the encounter with the minister, the caterers encounter with the minister earlier today. Those are the trainers there. William Evans Nkum is Northern Bureau Chief and our Chief Asante Regional Correspondent. William, thank you for connecting with us. Now, I could hear the traders now hooting at the minister. Tell us more.
Well, so they had gone to the RCC hoping that the minister will hear them and at least give them some words of encouragement, because for the past 2 weeks, they have been pressing home for almost a year arrears to settle, but that are still systematized. They've also been...
He just came out to insult us and go away, and went away. He said that I didn't know they said Mombada and then I didn't hear him because we were just going to present the petition. And so we heard that the women were shouting, why? He said, we can't minister, it's rather unfortunate.
Well, so that's what you have there, William. Clearly.
Absolutely, rather unfortunate. And the most pathetic, part was that the fact that, the caterers thought that, well, tempers will calm. On the side of the minister, understand your plight, empathize with them, and then perhaps accept their petition. But that did not happen either.
William, so what did they decide finally before leaving the place?
In fact, they had earlier planned that on the 27th of March last month, they were going to embark on a naked demonstration. But the same minister intervened, asking that they should at least exercise some level of patience and see as he try and then connect some dialogues with the central government to see if at least something will come out of that. But that did not happen. And what the minister did today, few or couple of them that we spoke to, it looks like they wouldn't rule out the worst case scenario if that will compel central government to settle the arrears.
William Evans Nkum, thank you so much for this update. William Evans Nkum is our Northern Bureau Chief Asante Regional Correspondent. It's 15 minutes to the top of the hour, 6 o'clock. Juliana Menuafol is here with all the details in the world of business. Julie, what's
Alfred.
The update?
Time now for some business news. Menu Afo. Now, 3 Business in collaboration with the Africa Center for Energy Policy and Imani Africa will host the business community in the premier edition of the Economic Sustainability Summit in Accra tomorrow, Tuesday, April 4th. Discussions will focus on the drivers and sustainable management of Ghana's public debt and the impact of the ongoing debt restructuring program on the economy. Benjamin Boache is Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy.
What we have seen as causes for recurrent subscription to IMF program is that there are other factors that we are ignoring and just hoping that the IMF programs would provide a sustainable path for our economic growth and debt sustainability. The reality is that IMF hasn't fixed the problem, and that's why we keep going back to them. So in this summit, we're trying to have a conversation that look at other fiscal and governance problems that keep, triggering the debt unsustainability, and begin to really address those problems so that the country can be sustainable and chart a path for accelerated economic development. So tomorrow is just the first of its kind, trying to look at, the other drivers that trigger the accumulation of debt, and see how into the future all of us can be part of a conversation that tracks, governance shift from those challenges for us to build a sustainable economy.
Executive Director of ACEP, Benjamin Boache there. Moving on, economists with the Institute of Chartered Economists Ghana believe the country is likely to go back to the IMF should the current negotiation be successful. They observe what Ghana needs is homegrown solutions and building the capacity of anti-corruption institutions.
It is the second time in the past 3 years and the 17th time since independence in 1957 that Ghana has turned to the IMF for help. At the sidelines of the induction of members and fellows to the Institute of Chartered Economists Ghana, Dr. Walayo Mensah noted the country's challenges are mismanagement, misapplication, and misappropriation of resources.
I don't believe the IMF bailout will really make much difference. It's only going to give us an interim stability, and after that we are still going back to the normal way of doing things. So what we need to do is rather to support and build the capacities of anti-corruption institutions. If you look at the past 15 years, the monies that we are seeking from the IMF, if you take the Auditor General's reports alone, we could have recouped these monies. So why are we not interested in developing their capacity so that we'll be able to retrieve and recoup these monies back to the economy?
A lecturer at the College of Distance Education of the University of Cape Coast, Dr. Forgive Kwadama observes an IMF bailout is a cosmetic solution that is not sustainable.
All the help we have been receiving from IMF are just in the form of painkillers. When we apply them to our economy, suddenly or with time, then the issues crop up again. So this requires a homegrown solution to our economic problems. The government must look at the production of our basic needs in this country and for our consumption and equally for export so that we can retain a lot of foreign exchange to help us improve this economy.
Ghana has successfully restructured its domestic debt as a conditionality by the Bretton Woods institution, but China and India are stonewalling the external debt exchange talks.
That was a report by my colleague Eben Ejekumboating. Now let's talk about T-bills now, because government exceeded its treasury auction targets by more than 21% last week, raising nearly 1.6 billion cedis. This was after the treasury missed its targets during the previous auction over uncertainty surrounding Ghana's external debt restructuring at the time. The following report has more. The government significantly reduced its weekly auction targets after investors finally reacted to weeks of huge drop in yields. Last week, the government targeted to raise 1.3 billion cedis, but received bids totaling 1.6 billion, marking a marginal oversubscription. The Treasury, however, accepted nearly 1.6 billion cedis. The money market has seen huge drop in yields from the 35% levels to an average of 19 across the bills as the government normalizes the rate. After missing its targets 2 weeks ago, the government has revised down by nearly half. This week, the Treasury targets to raise 1.7 billion cedis. Analysts expect investor appetite to remain strong as the market is awash with liquidity due to limited investment options. Meanwhile, lead researcher at GCB Capital, Courage Boti, says monetary tightening by the Bank of Ghana to mop up excess liquidity would affect patronage of treasury bills. He was reacting to last week's auction results.
The subscription at this auction is not as significant as we are used to, and I think that is largely due to the liquidity tightening following the 1.5% increase in the policy rate last week Monday. Going forward, you might begin to see those oversubscriptions kind of diminish, and yields would also start climbing higher across the curve, because what was driving yields lower was largely due to the oversubscriptions. Banks had a lot of liquidity that they do not find immediately use for, and the investment options on the market are quite limited. The week coming, the government is expecting to raise some 1.76 billion on the auction. I think largely they'll get that target, but it's slightly higher yields than we saw this week.
You heard Courage Boti, lead researcher at GCB Capital. Now, on the international front, oil prices have surged after several of the world's largest exporters announced price cuts in production. The price of Brent crude oil is trading close to $85 a barrel after jumping by almost 6%. Economists warn that higher oil prices could make it harder to bring down the cost of living. But the RSC monitoring group said it does not expect petrol prices to rise unless the higher oil price is sustained over several days. Brent crude prices rose after Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and several Gulf states said on Sunday they were cutting output by more than 1 billion barrels of oil a day. In addition, Russia said it will extend its cut of 500,000 barrels per day until the end of the year. That's how we end the business segment. And Menu Afo, stay with us for more news.
Menu, thank you so much. Juliana, appreciate it. There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. And Orik Wampofo is here with all the news in the world of sports. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know why she's hiding from the Juliana. But, it's part of your name, is it not?
I call her Akos.
Anyway, but it was a weekend full of coaches being sacked.
Yeah.
I mean, the latest being, the last before the end of the day yesterday was the Chelsea.
Graham Potter, one that was well received
by Chelsea fans.
Yeah, resounding blue sound. After the announcement.
I mean, it was long overdue, man.
Yeah, I mean, with the results that were coming in, that was just the only solution at that point. But there is a new man, at the helm temporarily, and that's Bruno Sauter, and he would be the interim boss of Chelsea as the board continue to look for a replacement for Graham Potter, who was relieved of his duties as head coach of Chelsea over the weekend. Now, Sauter, who's coming in as the interim coach, believes that Graham Potter did a good job as Chelsea manager.
Obviously, Graham, if I'm here right now, it's because Graham and the club, they thought that was the right step. And I'm here just trying to help the club and be the most professional that I can.
Just on the statement that Chelsea released yesterday, it said that Graham would collaborate to facilitate a smooth transition. What does that actually mean?
It probably means that I'm here right now, just trying to keep the process going, and we just trying to collaborate the best that we can. And I think Graham, he did an amazing job. Football is a really complex business, and we have to keep going.
Well, Chelsea have to keep going, but there is a record in the Premier League because 13 managers have lost their jobs in the Premier League this season, a number that could get worse. With a couple of months left at the end of the season, Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp, who has been under pressure recently, understands why so many coaches have been relieved of their duties.
It's 12 now, 12 this season in the Premier League, which is actually an awful number. Yeah, but it is how it is, and I think it's always, you have always these years where it happens more often than in others, and obviously some clubs are underachieving this year. Definitely we do, other clubs are doing, and I think especially when you are in a relegation battle, then clubs, we all know how much it means from a financial point of view for the clubs. But you could say similar things about being in the Champions League and not in the Champions League. It's similar stuff. So these kind of things, there are expectations out there, rightly so. And if you don't reach them, then you have to accept the decisions.
That was Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp. Let's just do some boxing, where after Dogbe's defeat, his trainer Barry Hunter admitted the Ghanaian allowed Ramirez too much room during the bout.
As long as Isaac didn't let him set up, and when Isaac made him feel uncomfortable by applying pressure to him, if you go back to the footage of the fight, you'll notice that anytime Robisi was in reverse, he would not punch. If you notice, every time Robisi would try to throw his left hand, either under or...
And that was Barry Hunter, coach of Dogbe. Dogbe did say that he's up for a rematch, but Larry Wade, who's a member of Ramirez's team, doesn't see any immediate benefits of a rematch.
General scheme of things. At the end of the day, all I wanted was for everyone to walk away healthy and him walk away as a world champion. Dogbe is a champion. He's a warrior. You know, both those guys have gone through a lot to get to where they're at right now. I'm honored to be part of the team. I'm honored to be at the fight because the fans are the ones who really won tonight. Both those guys put on an amazing show. I see this. I always say realistic. Are you referring to a rematch? Yes. No, I don't see it there. There's really no need. I mean, at the end of the day, Robesi's earned the title, and it was big unanimous decision. Dogbe has been at 3 of these, I think, now, and winning one of them. There's really no upside.
And so that was Larry Wade, who is a member of Ramirez's team. It doesn't look like there would be a rematch, but that's all for sports here on Hot Edition. Up next, we have entertainment.
Alrighty, now coming up on entertainment tonight, the TV3 and 3FM Shy and Amejofa expedition was definitely one for the books. The trip, which came off over the weekend, had patrons express the excitement for the adventure and urged organizers to put more of such trips in place to boost domestic tourism. Now, if you missed it, here are some highlights.
All was set to take off for the Amejofa and Shy expedition as the team gathered at the premises of TV3 on Saturday morning. Per the roadmap, the first port of call was the Shy Hills Resource Reserve.
Breakfast time, we're here at the museum aspect. We're going to get something to our system before we begin officially what will be a very exciting day here with the safari drive at the Shy Hills Reserve.
After a sumptuous breakfast, it was time to begin the adventure, visiting the Mogo Hill, the museum, and other attractions at the reserve.
Here currently at the Agdome Bridge, built in 1955 through to 1956 and unveiled by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. We're going to be making that journey across the bridge and heading into the Volta region proper, where we'll be going to Amejofa and our last big activity going up to Mount Gemi, and as well checking out the Oti Falls and finally that canopy walk.
It's very amazing trip, I think, for all of us. We are having a good fun and an experience to seeing different places of Ghana, the beauty of the Ghana, and also promoting local tourism here.
It was fun. TV3. I woke up at 3 just to make this day. Honestly, I'm happy to be here today. Very excited. More of this should come. I think every holiday we have in Ghana, TV3 should do more organization of this.
Well, some highlights of the TV3 FM Shy and Amejofa expedition. UK-based Ghanaian international jazz singer Stephanie Benson has opened up about her recent surgery. In an interview on the all-new season of Today's Woman with Cookie T, the mother of 5 narrated the heartbreaking ordeal she had to go through in the hands of bloggers who misinterpreted her gallbladder removal surgery for a liposuction.
And they were saying something about I had some surgery and I had liposuction and it went wrong. So I was telling people that they shouldn't do it because I've done it so many times. And I mean, I'm thinking, where did that come from? And I was on your radio talking about empowering women. What I was saying was, listen, if you've had children and you want to lift your boobs or you want to suck fat out, that's your choice to make. Nobody should stop you. But I would choose exercise over any kind of surgery. And yeah, so for them to just make up some story that didn't happen was I think it was so hurtful because the pain I went through going through that surgery. It was a standard, gallbladder removal surgery, and the doctor made a mistake and punctured my pancreas. So then I got pancreatitis, and you know how bad that could be. Right. And I just couldn't eat. I was on, IV painkillers, like they were just injecting it straight into my veins, because the pain was just so much that they had to do that. So I was on 24-hour, watch, and I think I went down to like 53 kilos, probably even less. I was like a shell of a woman. It's like this meme. Everything on me was sagging, and that was horrible.
Stephanie Benson there with Cookie T on the all-new season of Today's Woman. And finally, American actress and singer Cheryl Lee Ralph says it was truly an honor to perform the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice at the 2023 Super Bowl. To many, her breathtaking performance brought life to the 123-year-old song. The Emmy Award winner was on the Day Show with Bella Mundi.
Ooh, when I got the call that Rock Nation, which is Jay-Z's company, wanted me to sing Lift Every Voice and sing at the Super Bowl, I was like, whoa, what an honor. What an honor. The thing that really moved me was the day that I sang that song was 123 years to the date from when that song was first performed by 500 school children, memorializing the birthday of Abraham Lincoln, celebrating liberation, freedom for newly freed people.
Emmy Award winner Cheryl Lee Ralph there with Bellamundi on the Day Show. Thank you for your time. That's all the entertainment news on Hot Edition, powered by 3 Entertainment.
And she's back at 8 o'clock.